What if I told you that Ferrari was caught with a secret system hidden inside her car? An aerodynamic duct so innovative that it could change the entire 2026 season, or be completely illegal. It all started seemingly harmless, almost unnoticed. The last day of private testing at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya passed normally. The cameras focused on the lap times, on the race simulation stints, on the tire compounds that the teams tested. Some commentators talked about the weather, the consistency of the McLaren or Hamilton's adaptation to the new Ferrari. But among all that superficial hustle and bustle, one of the most shocking moments in the recent history of Formula One was brewing. A technical discovery that would go from suspicion to scandal in a matter of hours. It was during one of Charles Leclerc's runs. The SF26 took to the track with a new aerodynamic package that Ferrari had avoided showing during the previous days. In the official broadcasts, nothing unusual was detected. But among the independent technicians stationed on the main straight, there was something that caused confusion. A specialist photographer, accredited by a British technical magazine, captured a sequence showing a small black opening just behind the pilot's helmet. An area that is traditionally smooth and usually only contains advertising or decorative elements. What seemed like a paint error or a simple ventilation, in digital zoom and subsequent analysis, revealed a perfectly designed air outlet, discreet but aerodynamically functional. Immediately, that image was leaked in private channels of engineers, in technical forums, and in WhatsApp groups where former team workers share information. The alarms went off. Some thought it was a specific cooling solution for testing, but others, with previous experience at Mercedes and Red Bull, recognized the proportions and geometry. They were looking at an S-duct, but not just any one. It was not placed in the nose. It did not follow the traditional design. It was a variant integrated into the central body of the car, between the cockpit and the side pods, something that had not been seen since Sauber's experimental designs in the 2010s, but taken to another level. Within minutes, the other teams began sending representatives towards the Ferrari pit area. Some with direct questions, others just observing and taking photos with their phones. Red Bull and Mercedes were the first to request a legality review from the FIA. Even McLaren, which until then had dominated long simulations, requested a copy of the images to analyze with its aerodynamics department. What was just another preseason technical day became a hive of speculation, with impromptu meetings, urgent calls to chief engineers, and absolute silence in the Ferrari garage. Neither Leclerc nor Hamilton made any statements on the matter at the time. The team issued a brief statement indicating that the car was being evaluated within regulatory parameters, without confirming or denying the existence of the system. But the damage was already done. Ferrari had been caught with a secret system, operating on the track in a controlled environment, and without having officially declared it in the technical documents prior to the test. That discovery would mark a before and after in the SF26 narrative. What seemed like just another car in search of redemption became the technical protagonist of the 2026 tests. And even more, at the center of a controversy that could redefine the limits of aerodynamic legality in the new era of Formula One. Once again, history repeated its cycle. Innovation, secrecy, discovery, and the eternal debate between technical genius and foul play. What Ferrari did with the SF26 goes far beyond a simple reinterpretation of the S-duct. It is a radical re-engineering of the traditional concept, carried out with a surgical precision that reveals the level of technical sophistication that the Scuderia has achieved by 2026. At a time when the FIA aerodynamic regulations have been tightened, where every cubic centimeter of airflow is regulated and monitored, Ferrari found a loophole, a crack in the regulations, and decided to exploit it in a way as daring as brilliant. In previous designs, the S-duct was a tool that was typically integrated into the front of the car, channeling air from the underside of the nose to an outlet just above the nose. Its original function was to remove dirty air generated by the interaction between the front wing and the chassis. But on the SF26, the system doesn't even start in the nose. Ferrari has moved the entire system to the sides of the car, specifically to the inside of the side pods, achieving an integration that has never been attempted before on the modern grille. The air inlet is camouflaged behind the so-called aerodynamic vanes, those small elements that normally guide the flow towards the radiators. But in this case, those vanes not only direct air towards conventional cooling systems, but also feed an alternative channel. This channel guides air into an internal S-shaped duct hidden within the side pod, which precisely snakes between the cooling system, structural components, and electrical elements. All this without compromising the structural mass of the car or significantly increasing the weight of the assembly. But the most impressive thing is not the path of the air, but how that path has been designed. The duct geometry follows advanced aerodynamic principles: smooth curve, progressive taper, and controlled expansion at the exit. This allows the flow pressure to be maintained throughout the entire journey, avoiding energy losses and maximizing the acceleration of the air just before being expelled. Ferrari has used state-of-the-art materials, probably carbon fiber reinforced with high thermal conductivity resins, to reduce weight and ensure that the duct can also dissipate residual heat without deforming at high temperatures. The air outlet occurs in an unusual location, behind the pilot's headrest, above the central intake. This decision is not accidental. By placing the outlet in that position, Ferrari achieves two things. First, it cleans the flow that circulates above the side pod, helping to stabilize the air reaching the rear wing. Second, it creates an interaction channel between the upper part of the car and the lower part, as if they were connected by an invisible flow management system. It is, literally, a surgical intervention in the aerodynamics of the car. The level of engineering required to achieve this is simply extraordinary. Not only because of the technical difficulty, but because everything must be kept within the permitted dimensional margins, known as legality boxes. These margins are geometric constraints that limit what teams can place in certain areas of the car. Ferrari didn't just operate within those legal boxes. It did so with millimeters of tolerance, optimizing every curve and every angle of the duct to comply with regulations while simultaneously breaking the limits of performance. To understand the magnitude of the issue, we must go straight to the heart of the debate. Article 3.2.1 of the FIA Technical Regulations for the 2026 season. This article defines what is considered part of the bodywork and sets clear limits on what types of ducts are allowed. In theory, any channel whose main function is the cooling of a mechanical component is legal. But what happens when that channel also generates a significant aerodynamic benefit? This is where Ferrari has deployed its masterstroke. The S-duct of the SF26, as it has been detected and analyzed by specialists, fulfills this double function. On the one hand, it channels air to sensitive electronic elements or secondary heat exchangers. On the other hand, it strategically directs the flow to clean turbulent areas of the car and increase aerodynamic efficiency. Ferrari says its duct is primarily designed to cool a thermal module located in the middle of the chassis, possibly a battery control system or an adjacent thermal processing unit. But what has generated concern among rivals is not its primary function, but everything else. The FIA is faced here with a semantic and philosophical question, rather than a technical one. How is the functional primacy of a system measured? What proportion of the flow must be used for cooling to be considered legal? Is thermal contact with a sensitive component enough to justify an entire duct system of high aerodynamic complexity? These questions at the moment have no official answers. And that's what Ferrari is taking advantage of. The absence of a precise quantitative definition allows them to argue that their design meets the spirit but perhaps not the intent of the regulation. There is something else that is fueling the general suspicion: secrecy. Ferrari did not openly declare this system in the documentation prior to the tests, and its existence was only recognized after photographic leaks. This has caused other teams to question not only the legality of the system, but the intention behind its concealment. If there is nothing illegal, why hide it? Why cover that area of the car during the Fiorano shakedown with temporary plastic elements? Why not include it in the technical sheets for the first day? These questions have ignited a silent battle in the halls of the paddock. Because if the FIA decides that the system is legal, it opens the door for other teams to replicate it. But by declaring it illegal, Ferrari could argue that no rules have been changed and that its system was tacitly approved by default. This is the type of game that defines the great technical geniuses of F1. Operating with cunning not only on the asphalt but in the interpretation of the rules. In short, the SF20SIXSS duct system represents a high-risk, high-reward gamble. Ferrari has shown that it is willing to challenge convention and reinterpret the regulations with boldness, intelligence, and deep technical knowledge. But that audacity will have to be validated on the track. Only the results will tell if we are facing a season-defining masterpiece, or another chapter of technical frustration disguised as innovation. And that answer, as always in Formula One, is not in the papers or in the simulations, but in the checkered flag. What began as a simple technical observation in preseason testing in Barcelona quickly escalated into a chain reaction phenomenon that destabilized the delicate political balance of the paddock. Because in modern Formula One, every major innovation not only generates technical responses, it activates a network of cross-interests, media pressures, and silent movements behind the scenes that determine the course of a season. And that's exactly what happened when Ferrari was caught with its secret duct system in the SF26. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.